Cheers! Today I'm tasting my Blueberry Amber Hefeweizen. It came out great. I'm really happy with that. It's got a wild color on it. It's really hard with the blueberry wheat beers to make them come out blue. For one, blueberries aren't really blue, they're purple. And so when that mixes with yellow, you just get brown. So they're usually brown. This is my Amber Hefeweizen that has more red color in it. And that combined with the purple has come out with kind of a lavender color. I'll let you be the judge of it. It looks pretty cool. It's not muddy brown, so that's good for me. It smells great. It has the banana, strong banana ester flavor to it. And that banana mixed with a little bit of Motueka hop, I get a little bit of citrus, but still that breadiness, that toastiness comes through. I did a decoction on it. It smells great. You're really getting a banana aroma in there. I don't really get much clove out of it, which I didn't want a lot of clove in it. I wanted more of the banana esters. Let's give it a taste. The mouthfeel is great. A Hefeweizen should have a very smooth mouthfeel on it. It's highly carbonated. I'm tasting breadiness, toastiness. The Motueka has hints of stone fruit in it too. It's a really interesting profile because that blueberry is not very strong because I wanted it subtle. The flavor is great. It mixes with that banana and clove and that little bit of that stone fruit. It comes almost like a mixed berry after flavor. You get a little bit of pear and combined with the banana, so it's a little tropical. It is a Hefeweizen, so it's naturally hazy. This is the original hazy. It's not extremely hopped, so it's not like a hazy IPA or anything like that. It's been retaining its head pretty well. You can see some lacing, so that's good. I usually worry with brewing with fruit because the tannins can really reduce the head retention. The initial gravity was 1062, which was significantly higher than I was planning. It could be because of the fruit, which is 100% fermentable. But my final gravity was 1014. So I also had a really good efficiency in my mash, apparently. So the final ABV on it is 6.3% alcohol. Just have to be a little careful because it will surprise you. This is my Amber Hefeweizen that I've been making for over 20 years, which I love, and I didn't ruin it with blueberry, so I'm happy about that. The blueberry is subtle. This is a perfect Oktoberfest beer. I hope you stick around to watch how I made it. I'm going to show you the process complete from grain to glass, the whole brew day, and kegging. I did a closed loop transfer this time from fermenter to keg, so stick around for that. This is a great Oktoberfest. Prost! 5 pounds of Maris Otter. Another 5 pounds of Maris Otter. That is 8 pounds of white wheat, 2 pounds of red wheat, 2 pounds of Crystal 60L, 1 pound of Munich, and 1 pound of Carapils. In goes the 10 pounds of Maris Otter. I got my temperatures at about 159 degrees. I'll get about an 8-degree temperature drop by the time I add all this grain. I want to make sure I don't have any clumping in there. I don't want any dough balls. I want the water to be touching every part of the grain for a good conversion. Now I add my 2 pounds of rice hulls before I add the wheat. In goes the wheat and the specialty grains. I push that all the way to the limit. I like to mash with as much of the volume as I can that I plan on the finished product to be. So I'm shooting for 11 gallons, 11 to 12 gallons. I'm mashing in with about 11 to 12 gallons. the grain will absorb, maybe a gallon or two. Then during boil, I will boil off a couple gallons. So when I sparge, I use about 3 gallons to sparge to rinse the grain. So I'm starting with 11 to 12 gallons at mash in. Then after mashing, I sparge with about 3 gallons. Pre-boil, I'm usually about 13 to 14 gallons so that I end with 11 to 12 gallons to ferment. This is really pushing the limits of this kettle. I add those rice hulls because the wheat doesn't have any husk and I don't want it to get stuck. I don't want a stuck mash. So that rice hulls help add more in here so it doesn't clump together. The rice hulls have no impact on the gravity. For this Hefeweizen, I would be happy with an initial gravity of 1.058 to 1.06. My initial water was a little higher on pH than normal this time of year, I guess maybe the summer, but I checked it and it was in the mid 7s. So I did use a little bit, a few milliliters of lactic acid to bring it down to mid 6s. I know using lactic acid to get the pH down is not a traditional method. I don't want to do an acid rest on this mash because for this particular Hefeweizen, I don't want the strong clove flavor as much, and the acid rest to bring the pH down can help create ferulic acid, which helps the phenolic compounds, I guess, during fermentation that the yeast will produce that clove flavor. I don't want a really strong spicy clove flavor on this. I'm okay with subtlety, but I really want the banana esters. That's what I'm more focused on, especially since I'm adding blueberry to this batch and it's going to be very subtle. I'm not doing a protein rest either. I don't want to affect my head retention, which that can reduce head retention because tannins in fruit can mess up the head retention a little bit and reduce it. I don't want to ruin my head retention. I'm gonna let this mash for 30 minutes and then I'm gonna pull a decoction. And I'm gonna do a single decoction only, just to help bring some melanoidin quality out in this beer, which is great for a Hefeweizen. I'm gonna pull a sample to take another pH reading to see what it's sitting at now. All right, I'm ready to take the decoction. I'm only gonna do one decoction. I'm gonna try to get about 1/3 of the grain material out. I want as much grain as possible, very little liquid, just enough so I don't scorch, but that's about it. The 30 minutes of mashing is, most of the enzyme activity is completed. I'm going to heat this back up to about 153, 152. For the whole process of doing the decoction will take about 45 minutes. So it will continue to mash while I'm doing the decoction. Then I'll come back and add it in for an even higher saccharification rest. I heat this up very slowly. I just want to delicately bring the temperature up a few degrees. I do periodically stir my mash. During the first 30 minutes, I mixed it twice. I don't have a recirculation pump hooked up, so that's why I come periodically and stir it. I'm going to slowly bring this up to a boil, mixing it the entire time. It's really important not to scorch it. Once it gets to a boil, I've got to mix it constantly for 30 minutes. Boiling it creates Maillard reactions, which produces all those wonderful melanoidins. It's a caramelization. It adds toastiness, breadiness, biscuit. Modern malts are roasted very well these days, so it's not entirely necessary like it used to be traditionally, but I still believe you can't match the flavor profile unless you do it the hard way. I want just enough liquid in there to help prevent scorching. Otherwise, the liquid in the solution you want to remain back in your main mash because that's where predominantly the enzymes are. And this process will denature all the enzymes for any type of conversion. But most of the enzymes are in the solution back in the main mash. So when I add this back in, they'll do their job again. What this also does is explodes the starches that are remaining in this grain. So when it goes back into the mash, it's easier for the enzymes to finish full conversion of starches to sugar. And with this single decoction, I'll go back in for a higher temperature saccharification rest. So those sugars converted will be less fermentable. It will add a little bit of a sweeter profile, but I already did my main saccharification rest in my mash. So most of the conversion is done because I don't want an overly sweet beer. I just want the caramel accents, that extra toastiness, breadiness, but it's really important not to scorch it because that can ruin the entire profile of the beer. My wife compares it to making a roux. Okay, that's boiling. Back the temperature off a little bit, set my timer, 30 minutes. I cut and speed up, edit all this footage because I know you don't want to watch 45 minutes of all of this. It's not in the video, but it has to happen. So keep that in mind. Decoction mashing is a whole nother extra step, and I'm only doing a single. You can do a double You can do a triple. Like I said, it's not 100% necessary, and most people don't do it because it's a lot of extra work. I think it's worth it, especially for a style like Hefeweizen, which is traditionally decoction mashes are done on them, usually a double. I'm just doing a single. When I add this back to my mash, it's going to increase the temperature to get me to that higher temperature saccharification rest to finish out. I did a single decoction on this kettle corn, which turned out great. I want to get this Hefeweizen ready for Oktoberfest. It's going to be an amber Hefeweizen with a touch of blueberry. I want the blueberry to be subtle, not overpowering. I don't want it sour or tart. It's not a Berliner Weisse. I've been making this amber Hefeweizen for 20 years. It's one of my favorites. Hopefully adding blueberry doesn't mess it up. But the blueberries come from my own blueberry bushes in my yard. Blueberry tends to go nice with wheat beers, as long as it's not, overly fruity. All right, that is 30 minutes. All right, the decoction's done, so I'm gonna put it back into the mash, which will raise the temperature. I'll check that temperature and let it sit for probably another 15 minutes, and then I'll raise the temperature even more to mash out. No evidence of scorching, so that's perfect. Okay, that was a little messy, but it's okay. So during the decoction, the whole process took about 45 minutes. The mash temperature dropped from 153 to 151. Adding the decoction back in raised it to 155. I'm gonna let that sit for another 15 minutes. Then I'll raise the temperature to 170 degrees and mash out. So now I'm gonna slowly bring the temperature up to about 170 degrees. I've got sparge water heating up. I will sparge, rinse the grain, and move on to boil. Okay, that's about 169 degrees. I'm gonna let that sit for 10 minutes, and then I'm gonna sparge. All right, it's time to sparge. I'm gonna take a sample from it. That helps get rid of anything, any sediment that's built up in the bottom so that I can drain that out first. And then I'll take a little bit off of that so that I can check my final pH of my mash. Okay, that's draining. This has a false bottom in it, so it keeps all the grain back, but I still like to run a little bit off because a little bit of sediment will get in there, so that doesn't go into my cook kettle. Once that comes to a stop and everything is drained out, then I'll rinse with my sparge water. It's flowing, but a little slowly, so the mash is stuck a little bit. I'm gonna gently poke holes into it to help drain it out. I wanna get out as much as I can. This does create channels, and it's not the ideal way to do it, but you have to do what you have to do to get that liquid out. It's actually not too bad. Most of it has drained out already. My sparge water is 170 degrees. I just gently pour it over the top as best I can. I don't worry about it too much. I do it a little bit at a time. Okay, that's it. I gotta take the mash tun off, get the cook kettle on top, and start cooking. Okay, it's almost to a boil. At this point, I'm really careful. I turn the heat down very low so that it slowly comes to a boil, so that it doesn't boil over. When the proteins release and it hits a boil, it can very easily boil over. I checked my pH and it was at 5.5. So that's really good. That hits the mark. Okay, here it goes. I stir it to help break up that foam so that it doesn't boil over. Okay, that's boiling nicely. I'm gonna let this boil for 30 minutes before my first hop addition. This is gonna be my main hop addition. It's gonna be for 60 minutes of boil. It's 1 ounce of Hallertau and 1 ounce of Motueka. The Hallertau is a noble hop, little bit of spice, earthy. It goes really well with the Hefeweizen. Motueka is citrusy, a little tropical. I like to add a little bit of that as well, more for the citrus. And this is added for bittering hops through the boil. There's not going to be much aromatics to come through it. It's just to make sure this isn't too sweet. So I'm going to add these in now. It smells fantastic. I'm gonna let this boil for 60 minutes. I will do a small hop addition at the end when I add the blueberries, at the very end of boil. I just added whirlflock to the boil for 10 minutes right now to help settle some of the proteins out. I'm gonna go ahead and process my blueberries. I harvested these from my own blueberry bushes. I have 4¼ pounds, just shy of 2 kilograms. I don't want overpowering blueberry. I want it to be subtle. I froze them so that all the cells would break and rupture, and that would help the processing. That's all the blueberries, all ground up, or still frozen. I put them in a grain bag or a hop bag. My kettle has a false bottom, but I still want to keep as much of that material out. I just want the juice. It looks, smells, and tastes fantastic. All right, my pre-boil volume was right about 13 to 14 gallons. My post-boil now is about 11 to 12, somewhere in there. It's not exact, I don't obsess over it. I'm gonna add in a ½ ounce of Motueka right at the very end, just for 5 minutes. I just want to get a little bit of citrus, a little bit of tropical notes, but not much, just a tiny little bit. I'm gonna add that. And now I'm gonna add the blueberries for 5 minutes tops. I don't wanna cook them, it's just to sanitize them. And then I'm gonna immediately start chilling this down so that I can drain down to my fermenter. So here goes the blueberries. All right, 5 minutes of that. Okay, that will cool down quickly. I'm circulating water through the coil and back out to my swimming pool so that at least I get the water, I get to reuse the water back in my pool. Helps a little bit with conservation of water. Once it's cooled down enough that I can handle it, I'm gonna squeeze all the juice out of that blueberry, out of the bag. And then I'm gonna add a little bit of pectic enzyme. I'm only gonna add a ½ teaspoon for it, just for this 4 1/4 pounds of blueberries. I don't want to add too much because I've read if you go too far with it, it can make it bitter. But the purpose of the enzyme is to break down the fruit pectin so that it doesn't create haze. This is a wheat beer, it's a Hefeweizen, so the yeast is naturally, it's a low flocculation yeast. So they're a little cloudy. Hefeweizens are known for being cloudy, but I want that to be just by the product of the yeast, like a normal hef. I'm not trying to make like a hazy beer. I just want the blueberry and hopefully color, a little bit of color that comes in through that blue or purplish is what I'm hoping for. But I don't want extra haze from fruit pectin. It will clear out a little bit with time as it sits. So that's what I'm shooting for. All right. Draining into the fermenter. That's got a lot of color to it. I'm seeing purple in the line. We'll see how it settles out. This is when I want to aerate it really well. I squeezed all the juice out once the temperature was down to about 80 degrees. The blueberries really made it a lot darker than it typically would be. I'm going to take a sample for my gravity reading, and I'm really excited to try that. I know ultimately after ferment, the character is going to change considerably, but either way, I like to drink it at every stage, and I'm really curious about adding this blueberry. I tasted the wort after mash, before any hop additions, before boil, before hop additions, before adding blueberry, and it tasted fantastic. So we'll see what the blueberry does to the profile. Okay, it's just shy of 12 gallons, so not so bad. It looks like it's maybe 11.5 gallons, so that's perfect. I'm going to take my sample. Yeah, that's dark. It looks purple. It's pretty cool. It's a little muddy. I'm hoping once it clears out and settles out that it's got like a nice little purple hue to it. That'd be cool. Okay. Imperial Stefan. Great Hefeweizen yeast. I'm really looking forward to the banana asters, really, more than the clove for this one. I'm going to pitch at a little higher temperature. It seems to help the banana esters develop more. I'm going with 400 billion cells. I have this yeast that I've saved, and I could have made a starter for it. It's much more cheaper that way, much more affordable to keep reusing your yeast. I decided not to do that this time because it's a different variable adding the blueberry. And so if anything's off, I don't want to be guessing what it could be and think maybe it was my yeast, maybe the yeast was old, maybe the pitch wasn't right. So just don't even want to worry about that. And I just go ahead and use all brand new fresh yeast, pitch that in. It's in, good to go. I'm going to close it up. Okay, we wait 2 weeks. Well, it's been 2 weeks, so everything should be done. This time around, I decided to go with the closed transfer from fermenter to keg. I've always done an open transfer. I just fill up the keg with CO2, purge it, drop my line into it all the way to the bottom feed, fill it all the way up, purge it. I've never had any issues that I'm aware of with oxidation. However, why not improve? So I put together a quick closed loop transfer setup here. All I'm doing is I'm running line from the keg to my airlock, and then from my spout back to the keg. That's going to create a closed loop, and from the gravity and the pressure transfer, it will fill the keg. It will be slower, but this way around, there will be zero oxidation. Why not improve my game? Maybe I'm not tasting it, but it could be there. Someone else could taste it if there is a little bit of oxidation. I thoroughly cleaned my kegs, sanitized them, sanitized all this line and fittings and everything with Sandstar. Really important to sanitize everything well. I pushed the sanitizer out of my kegs. There's no oxygen at all in this keg. There's no oxygen in my fermenter. I ran pressure out this line here to fill it with CO2 from the keg before I hooked it onto the airlock. There's no oxygen in that line, and that's going to pull out the CO2 that's in that keg as the beer fills it. Right now I'm going to take my sample, which will pull some of the CO2 out of the tank while I'm doing that. If anything, it will just lower the pressure in this tank and will help the transfer. And the transfer might take some time. I'm going to take a sample now. That is a wild color. It's kind of got a purple hue to it. A lot of these blueberry wheats just come out brown muddy. So that's looking pretty good there. Once I cold crash everything and get it kegged up and let it sit, and I'm hoping it comes out a nice purplish color more than brown, but it looks pretty good so far. Smells great. Looking forward to tasting it. I will take my reading later. I'm going to attempt to purge this of oxygen from the keg as well. I think I can do that. Maybe some pressure will come out. Ah, yeah. It pushed a little gas out. Let's hook it up. I have a scale under the keg, so I weight them when they're full of the sanitizer solution. It's not exact, but I can see when I'm filling it, I can make sure that it's actually filling if I can see that the weight going up. And then when it gets close to the weight that I've already checked, I'll know that it's appropriately filled before I move on to the next one. Okay, it's on, here we go. It appears to be working. It's flowing. All right. It looks slow. This might take some time, but that's great. It's all right. I'll ride it out the time. I think it's worth it. It'll fill this one up, and then I will fill the other one. I'm pretty sure when I put it in the fermenter, I was right around 11 gallons. I hit my mark there. I can cram about 5.5 gallons in each one of these kegs. I'm really going to enjoy this for Oktoberfest. Pretty happy. That's great. That's it. I hope this was helpful, informative. Thanks for watching. Come back next time. Please subscribe if you find the content has any value and you want to see other videos that I put together about brewing beer. Please don't forget to hit that like button if you liked what I did. Please hit me up in the comments and let me know if you have any questions or there's anything you would like to see differently or have any suggestions.